than me. In the beginning as well.
Hey, thanks for joining us at the table. It's great to have you with us. We've got some really cool topics that we're going to be talking about today and meeting some even cooler peeps, so stick around while we have a chat. My name's Fiona. Joining me on the table today is the lovely Melody, Shona and Rachel. Rachel, where have you been? What's been happening? I haven't seen you for ages.
Been having a bit of a staycation. Yeah, it was nice. Nice to relax a little.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Happy to be here.
Okay, to fire things up, apparently there's a therapist in the UK, Gillian Bridge is her name, who says the terrible twos are a myth. Yep, this was reported in the Daily Mail in the UK and picked up by the Mamamia online forum. But get this, she goes on to say the real reason why kids in that age group act up is because of bad parenting.
Well, mine must have been shocking then.
Well, you know, before I actually had a baby, I would have wholeheartedly agreed with her. I was like, oh yeah, well, people act up because of parenting. But then now, with a baby who does the unexpected, you're like, no matter what you do, he still can surprise you.
Oh, wait until he gets a bit older, honey. You haven't seen the best of it yet.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think... Is there a terrible two? I think you could be terrible 2 to 22, 32.
Yeah.
What do you think?
For me, it's just been the whole way through. I mean, yes, the tantrum has changed. Yeah, just terrible. The tantrums have changed, but yeah, we're still going. We're into our late teens and we're still throwing patties.
I wonder if it's terrible twos or if it's just parents. They're used to having this kid that's just compliant and does everything they want, and all of a sudden at 2 they have this personality, they can get around, they can ask for things, they can talk back.
So you're saying that the kids coming into themselves and learning about boundaries and whatnot?
But you know what I want to say even more is that I guess I'm a bit tired of people making all of their money off of calling people bad parents at different points in time. Like, parents have it hard enough, even if you're the worst parent, quote unquote, the worst parent in the world, you've kept your kid alive, so you've already done something.
Thank you!
Right.
Tell my children that.
That's definitely important, I think. But I also take it back to the style of parenting. As parents, we need to be consistent in your discipline, because I'm big on disciplining your child. I don't care what age you are. I think in the Bible it says, whoever spares the rod hates his son. Yes. But he who loves him is diligent to discipline. When I think about diligent, I think you've got to be consistent and effective, whatever your approach is, be it 2, 22, 32. Yeah. As long as you're under that roof,
but
you're going to be
disciplined. That doesn't mean your kids are going to do every single thing you tell them. Of course, you're going to rebel. Like, they're going to do other things besides what you tell them to do.
We're all unique individuals. I mean, when God created us as well, He expected us to go a certain way, but then we kind of rebelled and decided to eat the fruit.
Well, you want kids to have individuality. You want them to be able to assert themselves and be confident. So I think it's just, you know, at 2, they're starting to begin to have those characteristics. They're starting to assert themselves and become independent. So it's about kind of, you know, having discipline within those boundaries.
And I agree with you. You want your children to be independent of you. You want your children to be resilient, and you want your children to understand themselves, to be able to say no, or to go, you know what, that doesn't feel right, I don't want to do that, to be able to stand up to bullying and all these other things. And it starts really young in life.
Has anyone seen or witnessed a tantrum take place? Like, you see it all the time.
Of course
Mine were great. They'd be in the middle of the Westfields or the supermarket, and they would throw themselves on the ground, and I would push the trolley past and I'd go, sweetheart, if you're going to do it properly, and just keep going.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you do see this? Do you think, oh, look, sort your child out?
Before I was a parent.
Yes. Exactly. And now it's like, oh, you poor thing.
Because even at a very young age, even with Jax being very young, I can already see him asserting his individuality. And, you know, I don't think it just starts at 2. It starts much
I agree.
earlier.
My youngest, Eden, she's 10 months. I think she's already at terrible 10 months. I don't know.
But she's a second or third child. She's going to be early.
She's special. She's very special. Compared to the 2-year-old.
Show this to her one day.
Yeah, it's definitely should. What about red food colouring? Do you think sugar has something to do with the way that kids are acting up? I know a lot of parents say, oh, it's the sugar that they're eating. That's what's making them so hyperactive or whatnot. What do you think?
To a certain extent, I agree. But I think food does play a part, yes. But when your child is openly defiant and does not agree and does not respect authority, I don't think it's got to do with you having a gluten-free or low-FODMAP diet.
Yeah, I don't think you can just blame everything on food. You can't just have a misbehaved child that you haven't invested in, that discipline, and say, oh, it's because of the red food colouring.
Well, I have a child who's got had peanut allergies to the extent of having to have an EpiPen, and they would he would only had to smell peanut butter, and he literally would go off his face and become really, really naughty and disobedient.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. And as soon as we found that diagnosis, changed. We took peanut butter out of the house. We took peanuts out of the house. He calmed right down. He's the sweetest child. Yeah.
Well, that's
so
really good to
food
know.
can.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
stand corrected.
Yeah, me too. But I think even as an adult, I love a chocolate fix. And after a block of chocolate,
Whoa!
it feels even better. But then after a while, you feel sick.
Yeah.
So imagine what it's doing to their young bodies.
Yeah.
I think it definitely plays a part in terms of like obesity and even health problems. So
I think not just the food that we eat, but sometimes the food that we don't eat. So even with kids, if they haven't had any food, you know, same with us, how we get hangry. You know, I think kids will get hangry as well. And I think it says so much about lifestyle and how it plays into every aspect of our lives, the foods that we eat, the foods we don't eat, you know, the sleep that we get, if a toddler doesn't get sleep.
There was a really good article on Facebook from a guy who studies sugar, and he was saying sugar that's not dissolved into your blood system actually becomes like alcohol in your liver. And so you can understand why some kids are misbehaving, you know, because this is what sugar is doing to them in their bodies.
But at the end of the day, isn't it just...
do you think it's a cop-out, Melody?
Well, not really, but I'm actually thinking it's just everything in moderation. Yes, probably it lives in your like alcohol in your liver because you've just had too much.
Yeah. There's definitely an addiction, though. I know sugar's definitely addictive.
Oh, it's like cocaine, isn't it? They've done studies on it.
Yeah, but it's in everything though. So
Yeah.
as parents, what are alternatives apart from looking at Gia's kitchen? She's got some great alternative sugar recipes that you
And
should
look,
check
a
out.
lot of it is, for me, because I'm a foodie, a lot of it is cooking from the basics at home. And yes, I know that takes a lot of time and energy, but, you know, get prepared. Organise yourself, have the food ready, grow your own veggies if that's possible, buy organic if you can.
Yeah, and there's many alternatives. I mean, I think one of her recipes was a prune. Was it a date paste?
Date
yeah,
paste.
Instead of sugar that you can use in baking and whatnot.
For
And
me, that's going a little far.
yeah,
I've been using, like, when I blend raisins into my food, I found that it makes it quite sweet and it's
Yes.
natural sugar. So I think, and I've been giving that to my son as well, like things that have natural sweetener in there, even though I know you need to be careful with that as well. But I think a lot of the topics we talk about are our environment. And I think it's so important to think about how our environment plays into our kids and how they act and react to things.
yeah. No, that's very, very, very important. Okay, well, one recipe that should keep the kids cool, calm and collected is all ready to be whipped up in Gia's kitchen. It's tofu mousse, not chocolate, not caramel, tofu.
Wow.
Now, I know it may not immediately appeal to everyone, but I am more than happy to take one for the foodie team. Well, we all will, because we have some samples here to try. Woohoo! Excited. Thank you so much, Gia. Here we go. Just pass that down. And we've got some extras there for me to take
Oh,
home.
it doesn't have a spoon.
Oh, how convenient for you.
Oh, okay.
I'll get one with the spoon.
Thanks, Gia. Oh, you want another one? I was
We
going
need
to
one
save one
with a
for
spoon.
me to take home.
Plenty there.
Oh, check this out.
I love dessert, but I don't love the calories. This chocolate mousse dessert is guilt-free and just 2 ingredients. It's easy. All it is 2 blocks of 100 gram dark chocolate. I like to choose a dark chocolate that doesn't have any dairy in it, completely dark, and 2 blocks of silken tofu, which I've already put here in the blender. Now, if you want to add something to it like orange rind, lemon rind, lime, vanilla essence, anything, you can add anything to it to make it yours. Now, this is going to be hot, so forgive me if I scream. So you just pour your chocolate in. Now, silken tofu tastes like tofu, but in this dessert, for some reason, it just doesn't taste like tofu. It tastes amazing. And once it's set, it's really good. The great thing is that each serving is only 2 squares of the chocolate. So your kids can have this. I take it whenever I go to a function, if someone invites me to the house, I like to take it in these little containers because it looks really nice and everyone loves it. It doesn't taste like tofu. It tastes like chocolate mousse. Look at it. I've got a little bit of chocolate left, which I'm going to grate. Chocolate mousse, guilt-free. I can eat lots of these. Isn't that awesome?
Wow, they were really cool. Thanks so much, Gia. Very quick and healthy. Okay, so our next guest is joining us from the Sydney Adventist Hospital. Dr. Gabby Vasika is a general and breast cancer surgeon. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr.
Thanks
Gabby.
very much for having me on your show.
Now, I guess my question to you is, with breast when's a good age to check your breasts? When should we be starting to, think about?
Good question. I don't think there's a particularly good age to start. I think all women should start from when they reach sexual maturity or begin their menstrual periods. And it's not so much about finding a lump or finding an abnormality in the breast. It's actually about getting to know what your breasts feel like so that you can be better able to detect if there's a change within your breast throughout your lifetime.
Is there some tips that you might have to the way we should be checking our breasts?
So I usually tell my patients that they should check their breasts every month, and in an ideal world you would do it in 3 different positions, usually in the shower, so that when you're wet and you've got soap and it's all a little bit slippery. Also having a look in the mirror and lying down. Now there's different things that you can feel for in these positions. So when you're in the shower, obviously having soap on your hands, it makes it a little bit easier to examine your breast. And again, if you imagine that the breast is like a pie, you can start on the outside of the pie and then work towards the middle, finishing in the centre, feeling behind your nipple. And really the things you're feeling for is if there's asymmetry or something different from one side to the next, whether you can feel lumps and bumps underneath the skin, whether the skin feels a little bit thicker on one side than the other. In the mirror, it's really just looking at what your breasts look like. Do they sit even on your chest wall? Do they look symmetrical? Are your nipples pointing in the right direction or same direction? There are some women that may notice that their nipples, instead of pointing out, point inwards. And particularly if there's a new change, that may be something to be concerned about. And when you're lying down, it basically spreads the breast on your chest wall, so it allows it to be thinner, and so you may be able to detect more subtle changes, like a little lesion within the breast itself.
Now, I was just thinking, it's interesting that Gia was just, cooking up a tofu mousse. Breast cancer linked to high levels of estrogen, soy, high levels of estrogen as well. Is there should we stop eating soy?
I don't think so. No, you shouldn't. Look, there are, I guess, through population studies throughout, the last many decades that we've been looking at breast cancer. Obviously, we see the proportion of women who have breast cancer. We can see things like that they've used the oral contraceptive pill for a long time, or they might be on hormone replacement therapy for a long time, or they may not have had children, or they may not have breastfed. And all of these situations are conditions where you're exposed to estrogen for longer periods. Okay, and so in that way you can liken that eating tofu may give you that little bit of estrogen benefit. But I think that there's never really been a proof, it's more an association. So I think we all have to live life and self-examine, be breast aware, and then deal with it if and when it happens. I mean, we can't all be like the Duggans, having a child every single time.
Is there a psychological impact that happens with people that have breast cancer post-surgery that you've had to deal with?
Well, I think it's confronting, isn't it? I think, the cancer diagnosis makes everyone look at their mortality. It's very hard in a consultation for me as a doctor, once you say the cancer word, it is very difficult for people to hear anything else. So we tend to talk about lumps and we try not to mention the cancer word so that we can actually get our message across. And it's confronting, and every anniversary from the date of diagnosis is a stressful time because you need to come and see the doctor, have a mammogram.
Especially as a woman, the breasts are...
And if you've got children too, with that horrible C word. A question I have is mammograms. When do we start? Where do we go? What do we have to do?
Yep. So the average woman that has no family history of anything, should begin routine screening at the age of 50. So in Australia, the Breast Screen Australia program invites all women from age 50 to 74 to have free mammographic screening every 2 years. I don't think it hurts, but it is not the most comfortable. To have your breast squished between 2 panels, so to speak. But I think probably the thought of it is worse than the actuality.
Okay, yep.
What's the difference between that and having an ultrasound? Because recently I saw a picture on Facebook and I thought, oh, my breast looks like that. I'm going to go have an ultrasound. And what's the difference between having them? And do you think it's a bad idea that I actually saw something on Facebook and it took me to the doctor?
That's so common. Dr. Google.
I think Dr. Google is a fact of life, and we as medical practitioners need to deal with it. I think, For breast cancer screening or breast screening in general, having both a mammogram and an ultrasound is more useful than having one modality alone. That's because both of them look at slightly different things. Ultrasounds are more useful in young women who've got very dense, breasts. With obviously they're in their reproductive age, so they've got a lot of reproductive breast tissue. As we get older, the breast becomes less reproductive and more fatty, so the mammogram becomes a little bit more accurate in detection. But neither of these modalities will detect every cancer. Only about 90% of cancers get detected by these imaging.
So it comes back to us being aware of our breasts,
and
checking them.
That's
Even
right.
if we're doing ultrasounds and mammograms,
That's right.
keep doing it.
And just going to your local GP.
If
Is
you
that where you
feel
can get
something that doesn't feel right, don't just ignore it. Don't just think, maybe I'll just check on it next time.
Yeah.
I think it's just a good thing to have another person check.
Don't
you so
bury our
much.
heads in the sand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Breast cancer can be a very personal and emotive topic to talk about, but it affects so many women and families. So it's definitely important to raise awareness. Thank you, Dr. Gabby, for sharing those insights. Time now to get out and about with Rachel Humphreys, who has been getting the scoop on school holiday activities for the kids. Check it out.
School holidays are great and it's so good to have the kids around the house for about 3 days before they start driving you crazy. So how can you get out and about with the kids during the holidays without breaking the bank? Because let's face it, we can't all afford to go to Disneyland, can we? One place to take them that might surprise you is your local library. It's a great rainy day outing. Books, magazines, audiobooks, music, movies, there is so much great stuff here. Some libraries have no late fees on their kids' stuff and they all have free internet access and computers. In the school holidays, most libraries run fun activities for kids that are either cheap or absolutely free. Of course, libraries aren't the only places offering free holiday activities. Check out museums and shopping centres, for example. And a bit of internet research will probably produce information about free community festivals, performances or parades in your region. Ask around about churches in your area too. Many of them run holiday programs for kids with fun activities, songs and stories. It's a great introduction to faith in the Bible, even for kids who haven't had much involvement with church before. And let's not neglect the tried and true favourites, the local playground, the beach, the bush, or even the local swimming pool. Some council pools are indoor and heated, so you can even go during winter. Just remember, bring water so everyone can stay hydrated, your sun cream and maybe a snack. Now, if you're trying to keep costs down, you need a strategy to deal with the pest of power. Bring a picnic with you from home so that you don't have to fork out, or at least some healthy snacks. Tess, do you want a biscuit? Maybe I'll have one. If you do end up buying food or drink, remember that it's a lot cheaper at the supermarket rather than a cafe or fast food place. That's right, Mum is saving up for a holiday. Big jump, go. All right. Safety first. Do I go on this one first?
Yeah, some top tips there, Rachel. Thank you. Well, from out and about to the west side of Sydney, our next guest joining us at the table is Graziella Capaccianu from the ADRA Australia Centre, which is situated in Blacktown. Thanks, Graziella, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us more about what the ADRA service provides out there in Blacktown?
Well, Fiona, it is a wonderful centre. It has a bunch of services and the bulk of it is counselling. That's the main one. But the other services that we have found are needed to support people who are getting the counselling.
And who are these people that are coming to the ADRA Centre?
Yeah, well, mostly are just
Homeless?
people from the community. A lot of clients being referred by the corrective services. A lot of mothers that have just been having it tough, or someone going through just something difficult like grief or a drug addiction or homelessness, like you said, or just
So it's
struggling.
a counselling service you provide?
Yep, counselling, but on the side, we offer things like food parcels, help with accommodation. People that are homeless and are maybe on the brink of eviction or just have nowhere to go. We have a beautiful team there that just help people advocate on behalf of them, getting them to the right services and just guiding them along.
Do you see that there's been certain trends in terms of what the needs that people have?
Absolutely. I've noticed that the ice addictions that have been hitting Australia, as you know, we've all heard about them, about these drug addictions, but particularly ice, has left a lot of people just a lot more poor, a lot less able to use their mind to make those right decisions
So
for their
you're
families.
saying that out west we have, well, in
Australia. Yeah.
we have young mums and who are taking ice with children?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
And so you guys are supporting them and what are you doing to help them?
Well, the biggest service, like I mentioned, being counselling, is just helping them through their addiction.
Okay.
So helping them get out of that cycle that just...
It's a free service.
Yeah, it is a free service. So just helping them escape that vicious circle or cycle that keeps them stuck.
Taking.
Yeah, and dependent.
Do you find people want the counselling? Or because you were saying you offer food parcels, so I'd imagine someone might come in for a food parcel. Do you then somehow tell them about the service for counselling, or how does that work?
Both ways. So people just know the centre for the counselling service and some know it for the food parcel service. So it works wonderful because they can then access the other service just because through the first way that they've heard about the place, be it food or anything else that we offer, they just follow.
How do you keep yourself from getting burnt out? You know, sometimes we have these friends who are just constantly telling us their problems, or you would face that as well. So how do you stop yourself from getting burnt out?
Well, I have to agree that working in a centre where you are counselling all day long, which is what I do there, you do hear a lot of traumatic stories. Some of them just can really shake you up, and some people have things just pile on top of each other. You think you've heard the worst of it, and then there's another thing on top of it. But one of the easiest way that I can explain how to prevent yourself from just getting overwhelmed is knowing to have the right attitude when you go into it. So you don't burn out if you have the right attitude. If you
think faith has something to do with that?
Absolutely. For example, if I was to take this cup here, this glass with some water, I'm not really good at this, but I'd say about 100 mils or 50 mils, anyway. And if I was to hold it out for a while, I would...
Your hand would get heavy.
Yeah, but, you know, it's not a lot of water. It's not exactly a great weight. But, you know, if I hold it for about a minute or an hour or a day, I think my arm would break off. And putting it down every now and then is just what helps us keep going. And that's where faith comes in, you know, knowing that people's problems aren't necessarily our responsibility, and there is a Father in heaven that is there to support them, and putting that down like this, you know, like the cup, not carrying it in your mind, in your heart, but just going down in prayer and carrying everything to God in prayer.
Yeah, giving it to God rather than you carrying the burden.
Absolutely.
Let go, let God.
Like when you leave work, you have to leave it at work.
Yeah.
Like you leave work at work. And
I believe that we were not necessarily called to this world, you know, as Christians to save it, but to serve it. So,
But when it comes to the ice addiction, right, you think people get addicted to ice because of a whole lot of different issues. Is there any way, just quickly, like how we can prevent ourselves from even having the temptation to get into ice because of all the social issues that's facing us?
well, what I found at the root of most people's problems, be it an addiction or any other problem, depression, anxiety, even homelessness, is the fact of self-worth. So making sure that your self-worth is taken care of, that strengthens you so you don't slip into an addiction.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jaciela. Just loving what you guys are doing there. And I hope we all can be encouraged to help or volunteer or donate wherever we can. Okay. So let's change gears here totally. One of the cutest things in the world is to see a small child who's just beginning to talk, putting their hands together and saying a little prayer to Jesus. Well, I think it's cute. I guess if you aren't that way inclined, though, it might seem a bit creepy or it might make you want to exit left. What do you guys think?
Well, I am that way inclined, so it doesn't make me want to exit left.
Yeah. Same thing as well. I do believe, I mean, Elliot's only 8 months old. Nearly forgot his age. You know, he's only 8 months old, and I try to cultivate that habit with him already.
Yeah, I'm with you. My 10-month-old Eden, she babbles, and we already are telling her, say a prayer, Eden, and she'll mumble, and we're all like, amen, you know, teaching them while they're young.
I teach scripture in public schools up where I live, and you would be surprised how many small children don't know how to pray, don't even know what prayer is. How do you think prayer works for small children in your line of work?
Well, not.
It comes back to the self-worth again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But, you know, there's this study that Dr. Neil Nedley in the States, who focuses a lot on not necessarily child psychology, but human psychology, and he said that, you know, prayer can help calm the person's brain, these brain waves that keeps us more agitated, or, you know, it's one of the quickest ways to calm these waves or heart rate and so on. So teaching a child while young to use this tool as a coping mechanism can really help them along. So it's not just from a spiritual point of view, but it's just a great way for them to stay strong through
So
life.
from a counsellor point of view, it's not brainwashing, is it?
Oh, no.
Do you pray with your clients?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes. Those that are willing,
Wow.
and you'll be surprised. They're so thankful and it
receptive.
and it helps them just feel a little
connected.
bit more open to God being part of their life. Back to the self-worth, the whole idea of I'm not worthy, why would God even help me? But if someone's praying with you, you then think, oh, so God would listen to me.
Yeah. And I think, that's important, because even as a kid, you're trying to instill values in them, that there is someone that they can speak to. His name's Jesus, you know, and you can rely on him or talk to him whenever you have, like, moments.
And that's really important, is that you can talk to him whatever time of day,
and be
however.
thankful. Be thankful for what you have in life.
I think a lot of it is the way we model the behavior, because I think it's very easy to say we're going to teach our children this behavior or that, but they're actually going to watch us, and there's going to come a point in time where they want to see if what we do is the same thing as what we're teaching them. So I think it's really good, even just the language that we use around God, and the way we talk to him just in our day-to-day lives. You know, if we have a problem, that we're actually calling out his name, and they're starting to see that that's a normal part of our lives.
We used to pray for, at Christmas time or whenever, we'd pray for car parks. And it would get to a point where my boys would go, Mummy, do you want me to pray for the car parks? And as we're driving in, they would start doing it. So it's modelling and showing kids even the littlest things we can pray about, and God will answer.
But I think never losing our wonder, because I think once we teach kids prayer, they have such wonder around it, and then we might take that away from them. So I think never taking that wonder and that amazingness that we have towards God.
And hope as well. Even myself, as a young kid, I still know a prayer that I learnt from when I was 2 years old, and it goes, it's in Psalm 1, but it pretty much just says thank you for everything, but some great insights. Sadly, it's time for us to wrap it up. If you enjoyed today's episode, please find it on YouTube and share it with your friends and family. Keep an eye on our Facebook page and website for free giveaway details, as well as other awesome content. Thanks again for watching. There's always room for you at the table, and see you again next time. Until then, God bless.